Of course, the biggest talking point today is coming from South Africa, with the resignation of Jacob Zuma as president. It has been a long time coming. Quite a lot has been happening this week. The ANC party, of course, gave Zuma an ultimatum to step down on Tuesday this week. He failed to do so, and by Wednesday, the party had already decided they were going to force him through an impeachment in Parliament, but he did not get to that. Yesterday evening, President Jacob Zuma read out a statement and officially stepped down. His deputy Cyril Ramaphosa, who is now poised to take over from him, well, he's already taking over in an acting capacity, awaiting his own swearing in as president. So a lot will be happening there. But anything to say to that? Of course, that reluctance to step down even when the party says it is time for you to go?
Yeah, Fred, I think this notion of a strong man, it's everywhere. It's common in Africa, in African countries. And that is where people cling on power. They just don't want to go, even when the people don't want them there anymore. You see, power of any country is vested in the people. It is the people who have the power, and leaders derive the power from the people. But because in Africa, in African nations, and I've seen it again and again, power is a way to get wealth. When you see, like in America, President Trump, he doesn't earn a salary. He doesn't earn a salary because he thinks it's a service to his country, and that's the way it's supposed to be. But in Africa, it's been the power man, the chief, the strong man. And so when it's time for them to go, it's just difficult. You even saw in the...
But it was going to be even more embarrassing if at all he was to be forced out in a different way, maybe through Parliament, if at all Parliament would have approved a motion of no confidence against him. It would have been worse that even though he delayed, at least he stepped down by himself. He said, okay, fine, I resign.
And here in Africa, we just don't seem to learn. Because when you see when you look at the humiliation, people that like Gaddafi, Hosni Mubarak up in North Africa, what they went through during the spring uprising, and then like how Gaddafi, as strong as he was, and how he died. Some of those should be lessons. You know, you look at Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, and the way. But again, I think I'm beginning to appreciate the way things are being done now. It is not so much of a humiliation. Like when I look at Robert Mugabe, you know, at the end of the day, there were negotiations, there were pastors and counselors counseling him and talking to him, and then giving him a safe escape route for him to get out. So I'm thinking maybe we are trying to get there, but somehow this strong man of Africa mentality should begin to die. Because and I think maybe like here, like in Kenya, we are good because we are prepared. We have an election cycle. Whether we like it or not, we can live with it, knowing that this will come to an end. And when you have this no time frame kind of system, where after 5 years they can go in 5 years, the way we were doing with Nyayo, it becomes a problem. But when you fix, like you say,
so we are at a better place.
And I think we ought to appreciate
because looking
that.
At other African leaders like Loro Gbagbo, the way he was forced out, the kind of humiliation he had to go through. We're seeing, and South Africa has been a leading example of how even when parties are frustrated with their leadership, they've managed to get through it. This is not the first time that they are recalling their leader. Thabo Mbeki, it happened to him when Zuma took over 9 years ago. Now we're seeing something similar happening to them. Their democracy is a bit different, their systems are a bit different, but it seems to be working well. And
I think we should actually pride ourselves in our system. We should more look at how our constitution is framed more than looking at the individuals, because you know, like countries that just don't have like term limits. So when you get really tired with the individual and the individual doesn't want to go away, what do? But where we have term limits, like in Kenya, you will say, oh, we don't like him, but you know what, give him this time and we'll be done away with. So, but I think Africa, we are moving. It's difficult. The tide is strong, you know, but we are swimming across the sea.
Yes, of course, Jacob Zuma's resignation as South Africa's president is still the biggest talking point this morning. He made that announcement yesterday evening. It's not captured on the dailies this morning because of, basically because of the time it happened. None of the dailies have any story. In fact, the kind of stories we have on what's happening in South Africa were anticipating his stepping down, but simply because of the nature of newspapers and how they're produced, they did not manage to capture that